Imagine waking up every morning with all your desires instantly fulfilled, every craving met, every indulgence satisfied. No struggle, no pain, just the constant hum of comfort and pleasure. Now imagine that in this world of endless gratification, your soul quietly withers, your mind becomes numb, and your sense of purpose dissolves. Pursuing pleasure seems harmless. After all, isn't that what everyone wants? To be happy, to feel good, to escape pain and bask in joy? But what if this pursuit is not just misguided, but dangerous? What if pleasure, when worshipped above all else, becomes the silent architect of your prison? In this video, we're going to explore how the obsessive chase for pleasure, be it through consumerism, entertainment, or even emotional comfort, is being weaponized against us. Through the insights of Aldous Huxley, ancient philosophy, and modern psychology, we'll uncover how humanity's unrelenting hunger for gratification may be the very thing enslaving it. And stay with me until the end, because the final revelation will not only shock you, it may fundamentally change how you see your own life. Let's begin this journey with a man who predicted our modern condition with haunting accuracy. Aldous Huxley. In 1932, Huxley published Brave New World, a novel that painted a picture of a dystopian future not ruled by violence or oppression, but by comfort, pleasure, and distraction. In Huxley's world, people were not forced into submission. They welcomed it because their pleasures were provided, their desires constantly satisfied. No war, no famine, just engineered happiness. And beneath that shiny surface, a complete loss of humanity. Huxley feared that, unlike the Orwellian nightmare of control through pain and fear, the future would be shaped by a far more seductive force, control through pleasure. And nearly a century later, his prophecy seems eerily close to reality. Think about it. We live in an age where dopamine is just a swipe away. Our phones vibrate with instant rewards. Streaming platforms serve us endless content, algorithmically crafted to our tastes. Food is ultra-processed for maximum pleasure. Pornography offers the illusion of intimacy without emotional risk. And yet, despite all this, maybe because of all this, rates of depression, anxiety, and loneliness are skyrocketing. Have you ever stopped to wonder why? Why does a generation with more comfort than any before feel so deeply unfulfilled? Why do people surrounded by entertainment feel so utterly bored with life? Why does more pleasure lead not to more happiness, but to emotional numbness? The answer lies in what psychologists call hedonic adaptation, the tendency for our brains to return to a baseline of emotional neutrality, no matter how pleasurable the stimulus. The first time you taste something sweet, it's euphoric. The second time, it's nice. By the fifth or sixth time, it's normal. And soon you need more, stronger, faster, bigger to feel the same rush. It's a trap. And here's where it gets darker, when entire systems are built to exploit that trap. Take social media. These platforms are not designed to keep you connected. They are designed to keep you hooked, feeding you dopamine hits with every like, every scroll, every video that plays before you even realize what you're watching. The algorithm doesn't care about your peace, your purpose, or your potential. It only cares about your attention, because attention is the new currency. And to hold it, they give you the cheapest drug there is, pleasure. But don't mistake this for freedom. What appears to be choice is often carefully engineered compulsion. You may think you're choosing what to watch, what to eat, what to desire, but in reality, your desires have been shaped by forces you don't even see. In a world where everything is designed to feel good, we rarely ask, is it good for me? This is the modern slavery Huxley warned us about. A slavery that doesn't chain the body but the mind. One that numbs us with constant stimulation until we forget how to sit still with ourselves, forget how to feel deeply, forget how to suffer meaningfully. Because yes, suffering has meaning. As Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, once wrote, "What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal." In other words, it is not pleasure that gives life meaning, but the pursuit of purpose. And herein lies the trap. When we avoid pain at all costs, we also sacrifice the growth that comes through it. We trade resilience for comfort, depth for distraction, identity for conformity. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something difficult? Not for reward, not for recognition, but simply because it mattered. When was the last time you chose silence over stimulation, stillness over scrolling? Our ancestors faced hardship daily. They were not constantly entertained, but they knew who they were. Their values were not handed to them by trending hashtags or viral influences. Their identities were carved by effort, by responsibility, by real human connection. And although their lives were harder, they were arguably more real. Today, many of us are drowning in comfort and starving for meaning. And the cruel irony, the more we chase pleasure, the less we are able to feel it. Just like a drug addict needs higher doses to get the same high, the pleasure addict becomes emotionally bankrupt, incapable of true joy. This is not a call to reject all joy. It is a call to reevaluate what real joy is. True joy is not passive, it's earned. It's not in the instant gratification of your next purchase, your next binge, your next click. It's in the long, often painful journey of becoming who you're meant to be. And that requires effort, discipline, purpose. So the question now is not, how can I feel good all the time? The question is, what is worth the pain? As we move forward, we'll dive deeper into the mechanisms of modern psychological control, the rise of consumer-driven identity, and the ancient philosophical principles that offer a path to reclaim your life. Stay with me, because the truth you'll discover may unsettle you, but it will also awaken you. What if the comfort you cling to is the very thing keeping you from greatness? In the first part of this journey, we expose the seductive trap of pleasure and how it becomes the perfect prison, comfortable, unresisted, and invisible. Now let's peel back another layer. The psychology behind the pleasure trap and how it's become the cornerstone of modern slavery. To understand this fully, we must return to a foundational insight from behavioral psychology. Operant conditioning. B.F. Skinner, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, demonstrated how behavior can be shaped through rewards and punishments. He discovered that the most effective way to control a subject was not through pain, but through the unpredictable reward, what we now call a variable reward schedule. Think of slot machines. You pull the lever. Sometimes you win, most times you don't. But the occasional win keeps you coming back, endlessly hopeful, endlessly hooked. Now take that same principle and apply it to your phone. Every time you check your notifications, scroll through your feed, open a message, you're gambling. And the reward, a like, a comment, a dopamine spike, a fleeting moment of validation. This isn't random, it's engineered addiction. You are the experiment, the lab rat, and every time you reach for your device, your brain strengthens a neural pathway that says, pleasure lies here. But what happens when those fleeting hits of pleasure become your emotional baseline? You lose the ability to sit with discomfort. You avoid silence. You numb every ache before it can teach you something. And slowly you become malleable. In this softened, numbed state, you are no longer a conscious agent of your life. You become what the system wants. A docile consumer, obedient, distracted, and compliant. Aldous Huxley understood this. He didn't fear a world of censorship. He feared a world where people would have no interest in reading. He didn't fear a world of tyranny. He feared a world where people loved their servitude. And that's where we are now. We are entertained into submission, we are comforted into compliance, and worst of all, we are pleasured into forgetfulness. Forgetting our strength, our values, our birthright to think, to feel, to live deeply. But ask yourself this, who benefits from a population that is constantly distracted? When a society is addicted to pleasure, it becomes easy to control. Not through chains, but through choices. Choices that have been subtly guided, engineered, and optimized by powerful interests. A numb mind does not rebel. A distracted mind does not reflect. A comfortable mind does not change the world. The philosopher Neil Postman once drew a comparison between Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World. Orwell feared those who would ban books. Huxley feared there would be no need to ban them because no one would want to read. Orwell feared the truth would be concealed. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Look around. Which world are we in now? Now that we understand how the pursuit of pleasure can sedate the mind and enslave the soul, we must ask, what comes next? What happens to a society when its individuals, its very foundation, lose their sense of inner direction? We enter the realm of consumer identity, a space where who you are is not determined by your values, your virtues, or your inner essence, but by what you consume, where you shop, what you wear, the apps you use, the shows you binge, the trends you follow. And this too is not an accident, it is design. The German-American psychoanalyst Erich Fromm warned us in his seminal work, The Sane Society, that modern man is increasingly alienated from himself. In a world that prizes productivity and pleasure above all else, individuals begin to see themselves as commodities, things to be optimized, marketed, and sold. In this view, you are not a being of deep consciousness and moral capacity. You are a brand, a curated image, a social media avatar optimized for likes and follows. You are trained to believe that your value is external, found in how others perceive you, not in who you truly are. And when you live like that for long enough, you forget how to be alone with yourself. So instead of building character, we build profiles. Instead of cultivating wisdom, we chase relevance. And in doing so, we hand over our sovereignty to the gods of algorithm and advertising. The ancient philosophers saw this coming, not in its digital form, of course, but in the structure of human desire. Plato, over 2,000 years ago, wrote in The Republic about the dangers of being ruled by appetites. He warned that a soul ruled by pleasure becomes like a city in chaos, where every part screams louder than the next, with no higher authority to bring order. Is that not our condition today? We are pulled in 100 directions at once. Endless scrolls, infinite recommendations, perpetual comparison. Our minds become fragmented, our emotions raw, our sense of self weak. We try to compensate with more stimulation, more visibility, more pleasure, but it never fills the hole because the hole is spiritual. This is the true cost of modern slavery, the erosion of authentic identity. A slavery that does not come with whips and chains, but with likes, subscriptions, and curated dopamine. A system that keeps us docile, not through violence, but through distraction. And here's the terrifying part. Many people don't want to be free from it because freedom demands responsibility. Freedom demands choice. Freedom demands the discomfort of facing your own soul without a filter. Are you ready for that? Most are not. That's why we must return to the wisdom of those who lived before us, before the screens, before the noise, before the engineered cravings. The Stoics spoke of a concept called ataraxia, a deep inner peace not derived from pleasure, but from living in alignment with nature and reason. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote in his private journal, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is the heart of real power, not in controlling the world, but in mastering how we respond to it. Modern systems profit from your inability to do this. They need you to be reactive, impulsive, constantly seeking, because only in that seeking are you profitable. But inner peace, that's bad for business, because a peaceful person cannot be manipulated. A person grounded in purpose does not need to prove their worth. A person who can delay gratification, who chooses meaning over impulse, is dangerous, not to society, but to the powers that seek to control it. And this is why awakening from this illusion is the most revolutionary act you can take. It begins with the rejection of false pleasures, not in the sense of puritanical denial, but in the sense of conscious discernment. Ask yourself before you consume anything, what is this feeding in me? Is it strengthening my mind or numbing it? Is it deepening my soul or distracting it? It also means embracing voluntary discomfort, an ancient and powerful practice. The Stoics would sleep on the floor or go without food, not to suffer for the sake of suffering, but to train themselves, to remind themselves of what truly matters, to prove that they were not slaves to circumstance. Even the modern practice of cold showers, fasting, and meditation, all rooted in controlled discomfort, are ways to regain this lost mastery. Because every time you resist a craving, you grow. Every time you sit in silence when your mind begs for noise, you reclaim power. Every time you choose purpose over pleasure, you strengthen your soul, and you begin to remember who you are beneath the noise. Not a consumer, not a profile, not a pleasure-seeking machine, but a sovereign being, a conscious mind, a soul with infinite depth. So now I ask you, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to wake up? Can you sacrifice the instant hit for the long-term gain? Can you endure the discomfort of stillness to hear the whisper of your soul? Can you resist the seduction of pleasure long enough to discover your true power? The world will not reward you for doing this, but it will transform because you did. In the final part of this video, we will uncover the ultimate truth that ties all of this together, the one insight that may finally break the illusion, the most powerful revelation of all, and perhaps the most uncomfortable one. And yet, it is the key to true freedom. We are flooded with information, yet starving for wisdom. We are hyper, connected yet lonelier than ever. We are told we can be anything we want, but inside, many feel like nothing at all. This is the consequence of building a life around pleasure. We forget how to build a self. So how do we escape? It begins by recognizing that pleasure is not the enemy, but worshiping it is. Pleasure is a gift, but when it becomes your God, it destroys you. Every philosophy worth its salt has warned us of this. The Stoics, for instance, taught that freedom comes not from indulgence, but from self-mastery. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And what lies beyond our control? The outcomes of pleasure. The more you chase it, the more it controls you. The Buddhists echo this wisdom. They teach that attachment is the root of suffering. Not just attachment to pain, but to pleasure, to desire, to craving. True peace, they say, comes not from grasping, but from letting go. Now pause and consider this. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing the next high and started building depth instead? Instead of asking, "What makes me feel good right now?" Ask, "What makes me become who I'm meant to be in the long run?" That question has the power to transform you. But it's not an easy road. In fact, it's one of the hardest, because choosing purpose over pleasure means embracing discomfort. It means facing your shadows, your loneliness, your past, your fears. It means stepping away from the noise and sitting with the deafening silence of your soul. And that silence is where truth lives. One of the most dangerous myths of modern life is that you can have it all. Maximum pleasure, zero pain, total freedom, and constant comfort. But this is a lie sold to you by a system that profits from your numbness. Because here's the hard truth. You cannot grow and stay comfortable at the same time. You must choose. Do you want the illusion of happiness or the pursuit of meaning? Do you want the numb thrill of constant distraction or the deep satisfaction of inner alignment? Do you want to be a slave to your cravings or a master of your destiny? In the next part of our journey, we'll go even deeper. We'll examine how consumerism has turned identity into a product, how ancient traditions warned us of this spiritual emptiness, and how reclaiming pain may be the key to unlocking freedom. It only gets more intense from here, and more necessary. Are you ready to confront the truth most people spend their lives avoiding? Freedom is not something granted, it is something claimed. Now we arrive at the final truth, the most uncomfortable and the most liberating insight of all, the one that ties everything together, from Aldous Huxley's prophetic warnings to the quiet slavery of modern comfort. Here it is. The greatest form of control is the one that makes you believe you're already free. You live in a world that tells you every day, you are free to choose, free to buy what you want, watch what you want, go where you want, say what you want. But beneath this dazzling array of options lies a hidden structure, a system built not to free you, but to keep you engaged, entertained, and exhausted. Because when you are tired, distracted, and overstimulated, you don't ask deep questions. You don't challenge systems. You don't revolt. You scroll. This is the brilliance and the horror of modern control. It doesn't demand obedience, it seduces it. You are not told to obey, you are tempted into it. In Brave New World, Aldous Huxley depicted a society where people were enslaved by their own pleasures. They were genetically engineered for conformity, pacified with a drug called soma, and entertained into apathy. There were no prisons because no one wanted to leave. Sound familiar? In our time, soma is not a pill. It's a feed, a screen, a luxury, a convenience, a stream of infinite novelty that requires nothing from you except your time, your attention, your life. And here's the terrifying part. It works because deep down, comfort feels better than freedom, at least at first. Discipline is hard. Silence is uncomfortable. Solitude can be unbearable. And the pursuit of truth, it demands the death of illusions, illusions we've grown addicted to. But there's something ancient within you that refuses to die. A part of you that still longs for something real, something deeper, something sacred. Call it your soul, call it your higher self, call it your conscience. It is the part of you that cannot be sold, cannot be sedated, cannot be bought or optimized, and it waits. It waits for you to remember who you are. That memory begins in stillness, in pulling back from the stimulation, in asking the questions no one else dares to ask. What am I distracting myself from? Who am I without the noise? Why do I fear silence? And perhaps the most radical question of all, what if my pain is not a problem to be numbed, but a message to be heard? Because here lies the